Well, the editors of the National Review have a new piece entitled The Minnesota Tragedy, which reads in part, for its part, the Trump administration hasn't been content to simply say that the ICE officer feared for his life and acted in self-defense. Instead, they have called the incident domestic terrorism and suggested Renee Good deliberately tried to run down the officer, which seems to be contradicted by the video evidence. ICE's mission is an important one. It deserves a serious, factual defense and shouldn't be a platform for Kristi Noem to constantly perform for the cameras. The Wall Street Journal editorial board, meanwhile, has a new piece titled The ICE Shooting in Minneapolis, which reads in part, the heated way Mr. Trump has gone about his mass deportation policy and the equally heated way that the left has opposed it made a violent collision inevitable. If Democrats are wise, they'll calm the furies and caution against obstructing ICE agents who have the legal right to enforce immigration law. As for Mr. Trump, violent episodes like this aren't going to help him or his party in November. His mass deportation policy is already unpopular and will become more so if there are more such violent incidents. He'd also be wise to calm the furies, but we say this knowing how unlikely that is. So a couple of things here. You do see a growing effort that's amplified by Trump supporting TV hosts, which I had the displeasure of watching yesterday, blaming protesters. And I see this building now. There's this sort of attempt to sort of turn this around. This isn't the ICE agents. They're just people trying to do their job, which they are. Being put in a terrible position by President Trump, his Department of Homeland Security. They are being put in a terrible position. They are armed. They are dressed like they're going to war.
Yeah.
And being put in urban communities. And it's a surprise that people are scared, that people are using their rights of free speech, that people are videotaping what is happening to their friends, their neighbors, their workers who are being taken away, often in violent ways, in frightening ways. And I worry, Jay Johnson, that this is, again, Trump's talent of turning things. I mean, he was able to get enough Republicans to stand down on pardoning the rioters at January. I mean, they're not even talking. Some Republicans act like it never happened and go, oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, just forget about it. That happened already.
Many of whom reportedly have committed crimes subsequent to January 6th. Mika, when I was Secretary of DHS, I used to tell ICE leadership, prioritize the bad guys. And
Right.
This administration seemed to start off doing that, prioritize the bad guys for enforcement. And when you're out on the streets in urban areas like Minneapolis, use your common sense. One notorious incident can derail the entire mission in a community like this. One unlawful shooting, one arrest of someone on a church steps, showing up at a school, scaring the children at a school, can derail the entire mission. I also worry about the type of people that are being recruited now for ICE. The recruitment rhetoric is defend your culture. What does that mean? I think that's a dog whistle, basically, for let's go after the great replacement. If you're Mexican-American, for example, in South Texas, interested in enforcing the law, defend your culture is not a message for you. If you're a Muslim-American in Michigan or Minneapolis, interested in enforcing the law, going into law enforcement, defend your culture is not a message for such a person. That basically you need not apply. Mm-hmm. And so I do worry about the people we are recruiting for this very sensitive, delicate mission. And again, tactics in de-escalation are so important, whether it's the ICE or New York City Police or whatever.
Well, on the idea of de-escalation, Mr. Secretary, I'd argue that what the vice president did yesterday was escalate.
Yeah.
You know, that rhetoric from the White House podium, and this is from J.D. Vance, who's been little less visible of late because of the focus on Venezuela. He's much more an isolationist. There's been speculation about his standing right now. But he went front and center yesterday and defended this.
Right.
Said that the ICE agents should be going door to door, which is with new rhetoric from him yesterday as to what they'd be doing going forward. And I think my question to you is, at a moment, with Minneapolis in particular is a city that's been a powder keg for years now, but we're seeing incidents in other cities as well, significant protests. What are your fears that tensions are so high right now that another incident could happen, whether it's instigated by an ICE agent or a protester?
High. My concern is high right now. The litmus test for our elected leaders in a moment like this is, are you amping it up in your rhetoric, or are you trying to tamp it down? Are you trying, for example, Spencer Cox, governor of Utah, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk there. Are you trying to calm people's fears down, or are you simply playing to your base and trying to amp it up? And I'm afraid there are too many in the latter category right now.
Yeah, Willie.
David Rode, we heard the vice president yesterday say time and time again that Renee Good rammed or attempted to ram or drove her car into this agent who ultimately shot and killed her. We obviously don't see that in the available video that we've all watched now for almost 48 hours. As we said yesterday, we want the full context. We want to know what happened in the moments, the minutes, maybe the hours before that. Have you, as a reporter, seen any video? Have you heard any eyewitness account that supports the argument, which is core to this, from what the administration is saying, that Renee Good used her car as a weapon, drove her car at the agent, therefore he was justified in self-defense?
I'm not as much of an expert as Jay on this. I have not seen evidence or videos that clearly showed what her intent was. I thought Jay's description of her panicking was very appropriate. And it's why, again, making so much of this investigation, or as much of this investigation as possible, public is so key. I hate to talk about this, but the autopsy, which shot killed her. There was apparently, there's an initial shot. You could see it through the windshield there, but shots through the passenger side window. Yeah. Clearly, the person firing through the passenger side window is not about to be hit by the car. So these are huge questions. And just more broadly, I just want to point out, President Trump and Stephen Miller have set a quota that these ICE agents are constantly pushed to meet. This is not searching out the worst of the worst. They wanted to deport 1 million people. They've gotten hundreds of thousands instead, but there's enormous pressure on these ICE officers to just hunt down people in city after city and hit this quota. And that, again, that's not leading to fact-based, fair law enforcement operations, and it's just putting enormous pressure on these ICE officers.
No. There's definitely a lot of questions that need to be answered by an extended investigation that's now being held off by the state. I think the state's going to push back and try and get in there, as they should. But those 2 shots through the side of the window will definitely be, it'll be very interesting to see which ones actually killed the victim in this case. Also, the first ICE agent moving quickly toward the car might have caused the panic. Again, all questions. And the vice president has helped with the investigation in one way, pointing out that this shooter, the ICE agent in this case, was apparently extremely sensitive, a victim of trauma. And so you wonder about not just the training, but the regulations about putting ICE agents in the field who are suffering from trauma. Sounds like a very bad decision.